Alright, so for our last video, we're going to focus on scales, upward flicks, and quilt. And as you see, I've already prepared my images so that way there's no white space that'll be shown through. So scales is a little time consuming, but if you take your time, you can do a really good job making it look great. And it's something that you can apply to fish, snakes, dinosaurs, you name it. You can even kind of apply it to feathers if you wanted to. Okay. So what you want to do is create a series. Let me change my pencil. Okay. You want to draw a series of letter U's like this. You're going to do that all the way across. Okay. And then in between each letter U, so if this is the middle of the letter U, I'm going to draw another letter U underneath, connecting the middle of the two above it. Okay, now that means I'm going to have half of one going off the page here and half of one going on. And I'm going to repeat that until I get to the bottom. And then again. Alright, so now I have my scales. Now what I want to do is I want to start actually shading this in. And there's a specific way I want to shade this in. Okay, so I'm going to start by coloring this. It's easier if I show you one in the middle, but you could apply it to every one of the scales. So you are going to have to shade each individual scale. So what that means is you need, for me, I'm doing green scales, so I'm going to do yellow, yellow-green, green, and even blue-green. So I'm going to start with the middle green, the light green, but at the very tip of it, I'm going to put some yellow to make it look like it's getting some light. Okay. As it gets a little bit closer to the scales above it, it's going to get a little bit darker. So I'm going to put a little bit of a darker green here. And where it gets really dark, I'm going to put some blue right on top. That's going to make a shadow. And we don't really talk about it too much, but shadows are rarely really black. You don't really want to use black for shadows. Instead, you want to look for blue for colors. Like if I'm using green, a shadow would be blue. Let me go back to this pencil. Okay, and I would just repeat this. And let me do another one so that way you could kind of see what it would look like with a couple of them on there. So let me go back to this color pencil. I'm going to shade this one. I'm going to do a couple at the same time. Okay. A lot of times students like to work on one at a time, but it's easier if I'm using green. I'm going to shade I'm going to use that color everywhere I need to use it. Otherwise, I'm having to put down, pick up, put down, pick up, and that takes time, and it's a waste of time. So if you find a way to use all the color that you need and use it everywhere, it's going to save you some time. Now, as I said, I'm only using this for these three. If I was doing the entire image for, like when I did my teacher example, when I used the dark green, I used the dark green everywhere I needed to use the dark green before I moved on to the dark blue. So that way I wasn't picking up and putting down color pencils everywhere. Okay. And finally, I'll use that blue. And I'll use it sparingly, meaning not a lot, in spots where I really want those dark shadows to be. If you really wanted, you could even take some white, and you can put some little bit of white right at the tip of the scales to look like a highlight. Okay, let's move on. Upward flicks. This is the one we repeated. We did this on the first sheet, where you want to use several. You need three colors. Okay, a light, medium, and a dark. I'm going to use pink, red, and purple. Okay, so let me get the right pencil. Okay, turn off the smoothing. So this one, it's very much like check mark, only you're only doing the second half of the check. So I do this. And I would do this all the way from the bottom to the top. This would be a great way to use to do fur, to do grass. It's a great texture to use. Okay, but I'm not going to sit here and make you watch me draw a bunch of flicks, because I think very easily you see exactly what I'm looking for with this. So the end result will look like that. Okay, so moving on, let's move to the last example, which is quilt. Okay, so for quilt, 2 or 3 colors. I'm going to start by making a line here, horizontal, in the middle, and then another line splitting that, and another line splitting that. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. And I'm going to draw a vertical line so that on a globe, this would be the prime meridian. And I'm going to split that section up. And now I'm going to split this section up. So now I have 16 little squares. Okay, so now I'm just going to start by making horizontal lines. So I draw them in the first square, skip a square, and draw them in the third square. Okay, in between these, I'm going to make my vertical lines. Okay, and I'm going to repeat that on the bottom, or on the row underneath, but instead I'm going to switch the order. So instead of doing horizontal first, I'm going to start with vertical. Now horizontal, vertical, and horizontal. And I'm going to repeat the pattern. This next row is going to look just like the pattern on the top. And then finally, vertical, horizontal. You can see I'm rushing this, and I'm making mistakes. Okay, in between now, I'm going to choose my dark green, and I'm going to go in between the other greens. And you should get the idea by now. So if you repeat this, you end up with something like that. Okay, so if you have any questions, go back and watch the videos. But if there's something that the videos are not answering, please write me an email, and I'd be more than happy to help you. Really looking forward to seeing what you guys do. Take care.